Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the first installment of the Local Control Accountability Plan and our District Advisory Committee who oversees that project. We have a very exciting agenda this evening. We have three key items. Item number one will be a review of our LCAP and local control indicators. We're going to be reviewing the draft of the LCAP document, which is new and not quite completed by the state, but we look forward to their completed product when they get there. And then we have some student data focusing in on our students who are on their way to meeting their potential, but not quite there yet. So with no further ado, we'd like to turn it over to our presenters tonight. Mr. Thor Harrison will start.
Thank you, Dr. Nicholas. So tonight I'll be presenting the Local Control Accountability Plan along with the local indicators that are part of the 8 state priorities. So the LCAP 8 state priorities are number one, basic conditions of learning, state standards, parental involvement, pupil achievement, pupil engagement, school climate, course access, and other pupil outcomes. Please note that numbers 1, 2, 3, 6, and 7 are all underlined. Those are the local indicators of the 8 state LCAP priorities. Let's remind everybody of our LCAP goals here in Lambertville Unified School District. Number one is systematic closure of the opportunity gaps, which addresses priorities 1, 2, 4, 5, and 8. Number two is instruction and curriculum efficacy, which encompasses priority 2, 6, and 7. And then lastly, 21st century outcomes and stakeholder communications, which encompasses priority 1 and 3. So let's look at priority 1 as it relates to local indicators for Lambertville Unified School District. And as a school district, we met the Williams settlement requirements. Our facilities are in good repair. We have appropriately credentialed teachers, and all students have access to standards-aligned instructional materials. Priority 2 relates to state standards and conditions of learning. For this item, there's a reflection tool that we use to rate our school district in a scale of 1 to 5. And the rating is related to the adopted academic standards for each of the areas: ELA, math, science, history, social studies, CTE, health, PE, world languages, and professional learning. You'll notice that we were rated at a 5 for ELA, ELD, and math, and then for next generation science standards and social studies, we rated at a 3. Those are new adopted materials or content that's being created currently. And then CTE, we were rated at a 4 because we continue to grow in the realm of CTE and world languages. Priority 3 has expanded the most when it comes to the local indicators. And the 3 areas that parental engagement or priority 3 focus on are building relationships between school staff and families, building partnerships for student outcomes, and seeking input for decision making. These are rated on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being exploration and research, and 5 being full implementation and sustainability. So the first facet of priority 3 is building relationships between school staff and families, which involves capacity of staff to build trusting and respectful relationships with families. You'll notice there's a 4 at the end of that phrase, indicating where we fell on the rubric. Number 2, creating welcoming environments for all children. We were rated at a 4. Supporting staff to learn about family strengths, cultures, languages, and goals for their children. We were rated at a 4. And then developing multiple opportunities for the LEA and school sites to engage in two-way communications between families and educators and staff. We were rated at a 4. The next part of priority 3 is building partnerships for student outcomes, providing professional learning and support to teachers and principals to improve the school's capacity to partner with families. We were rated at a 4. Providing families with information and resources support for student learning and development in the home. We were rated at a 4. And then implementing policies or programs for teachers to meet families and students to discuss progress and ways to work together to improve outcomes. We rated a 4. And then to support families to understand and exercise their legal rights and advocate for themselves and other students, we were rated at a 4. Part 3 of Priority 3 is seeking input for decision making. First part of that is building capacity and supporting principals and staff to engage families in advisory groups and decision making. We were rated at a 5. Building capacity and support for family members to effectively engage in advisory groups and decision making. We were rated at a 5. Providing families with opportunities to provide input on policies and programs and reach and seek input from underrepresented groups. We were rated at a 4. And then providing opportunities to have families, teachers, principals, and district administrators work together to plan, design, implement, and evaluate family engagement activities. We were rated at a 4. Once again, that's out of a rubric of 1 to 5. Priority 6 involves school climate and engagement. This priority is our response is mainly revolving around survey results, which is required by the CDE. You'll notice that Healthy Kids survey was used, 443 parents and 1,054 students responded. You'll note there it says year 17-18 because the Healthy Kids survey is being given currently right now in our school district. So this data is from the previous year Healthy Kids survey was given. The survey is given every other year. And that is a survey that's generated and distributed by the state of California. As you can see, our students feel like our schools are very safe. They feel safe at our schools. And then our survey, which we did locally, we had 576 parents and 1,044 students respond. And you'll note there that 50% of 5th, 7th, and 9th grade students have a real connection with their teacher. 86% of students feel like their teacher wants them to succeed. And 71% of parents surveyed agreed that Lambertville Unified School District communications are timely and informative. And then 68% of 5th, 7th, and 9th grade students believe LUSD is preparing them to be successful in life. All of these surveys and results were a direct correlation to questions that are asked by this section of the Priority 6. The whole process, or what we're looking for as an organization, is how students are connected to school and the connectedness they have to school. And lastly, Priority 7, which is course access. We use a reflection tool on this, and the reflection tool is asking, do our students have access to a broad course of study? And does that include our special ed students and unduplicated students? And do our students have access to remediation at the school? And we identified success period at the high school, in-class, after-school remediation and small group instruction, and online learning and digital supports as the way we support our unduplicated students. Student access to programs. We have a broad course of study as indicated. We have CTE programs that continue to grow each year, and we have a broad offering of CTE programs. And then also we are expanding our AP programs, advanced placement programs at the high school. And we are also working to define unduplicated students who would qualify for advanced placement courses or honors courses by delivering the 8th grade PSAT to all 8th grade students to look at college and career readiness. Are there any questions about the LCAP priorities and the local indicators? If there are no questions, I'll move on to item 2. The LCAP has a new structure, the Local Control Accountability Plan. What you're going to see on the screen is a draft plan that has been divvied out by the CDE, California Department of Education. This plan will be acted on by the State Board of Education in January of 2020. What I am presenting here and reviewing with you as a group is the draft, which has 2 options when it comes to the goal setting. And I'm going to review both of those options. I broke the camera. Sorry. Yes, perfect. Thank you. You also have a copy of this in front of you. If you need a handout, they're over on the table over there. So the Local Control Accountability Plan, this is a template that is used by the school district to communicate to the public, communicate to staff, communicate to all parties what the Local Control Accountability Plan is. So you'll notice at the top of the first page, it has general information. That's a summary of our plan and what our goals, what we're trying to achieve when it comes to our plan. You'll notice that there's successes and identified needs. The successes and identified needs are based on an analysis that we do on the dashboard and local data to assess where we did well and to also assess where we need more assistance and where we need to provide resources to our school sites. Once we've identified need, then what steps are we taking to address those areas of need? Areas of need could be subgroups of students, they could be individual school sites, things of that nature. And then lastly on this page, we give a highlight or a brief overview of key features of the emphasized areas in our LCAP plan. If you turn the page, you'll note that this page is for schools that have identified needing support improvement. Luckily, our school district does not have any schools that have been identified that need intensive support or improvement when it comes to the state. However, we were mandated to create a plan in case we did have schools that needed assistance. So we did create a plan just in case. But it's not required in the LCAP template here. Page 3 is stakeholder engagement. You'll note that parent advisory groups, English learner advisory groups, teachers, principals and administrators, school personnel, special SELPA group, bargaining units, parents, and students are all a part of the development of the LCAP. And there's also a section for other stakeholders, which may be groups that are participating in the LCAP process that aren't enumerated in these sheets. I'm on page 5 now. Page 5 starts with option A. There's 2 options that are out there that the Board of Education is considering. Option A starts with the goal. So our goal, 21st century learners, you may have the goal written there. And then there's a brief explanation of why that is a priority for our school district. And then the next section is where we measure and report. We delineate what assessments, what qualitative and quantitative data we are using to measure success of that goal. That's followed by actions, the literal actions that we took to address that goal. And in this school district, we have 3 LCAP goals. So this would be repeated 3 times. If you turn the page, then there's a goal analysis, which is pretty self-explanatory. But in this analysis, you also have to delineate the difference between budgeted expenditures and the estimated actual expenses as a part of your goal analysis. On page 7 are the reporting results where we show the actual outcomes from year to year. And this is a longitudinal, I guess you call it a graphic, where we express our reported results from year to year. So this LCAP year coming up, this school year 1920, 2021, and 21-22 would be delineated on here, our outcomes, and we compare year to year. The next section are the actions we're taking to support the priorities, how we're expending monies, actions that we're taking at school sites. It could be an individual school site, or it could be an action we're taking district-wide. And then we have the overall goal analysis. On page 8, which is the next page, this is the structure for option B. Option B is a little shorter than option A. You start with your goal, and then you measure, and you have your measurement and reporting results year to year. And then after that, your actions. Budgeted expenditures are still asked for, and they're on a separate spreadsheet with this option. And then the next page, you have the goal analysis, which is similar to the previous goal analysis. It's basically the same thing. It's just a different option. And then on the last page, we have increased or improved services and required descriptions, which is an explanation of the needs of English learners, foster youth, low-income students, and focus area students and what we're doing for those students, how we're spending money, what programs we're initiating or supporting to support focus area students. Like I said, this is a draft model of the new LCAP document, which we will complete as a school district once the State Board of Education has taken action. Leading up to the ratification of this document, we are having meetings with constituent groups and talking about our goals and taking input from our students, parents, community, et cetera, so that we can be ready for the new template when it rolls out in January. Because the document is completed, as you're all aware, it's completed in May, so it leaves you about 4 or 5 months to do a number of actions. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. To round out tonight's presentations, we have done a meta-analysis of one particular subcategory group or groups of students because they have proven over time to be a challenge in the education profession, but also a challenge for us to find a way to meet the title, which is all means all, which means our goal is to make sure that all of our kids get everything they can to meet the social, emotional, and academic growth required of them to go where they want to go in their life. So with no further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce Assistant Superintendent Heather Sherburne.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Nicholas. It's my pleasure to be here tonight and talk about meeting the needs of the 25% of our population that has been a little more challenging across the country to support and serve. So this is the third presentation in a series we've been doing looking at our data analysis based on CASP results from this last year. So we're looking a little bit more at these subpopulations. What you'll see in the darkest blue there is the overall proficiency in language arts on the left and in math on the right. So we have 70% and 66. Each of the other colors tells you the proficiency of a specific subpopulation. So looking at our English learners, we have 29% in ELA, 33% in math. African American population, 51% in ELA, 35% in math. The lighter blue is indicative of the socioeconomically disadvantaged population, 53% in ELA, 46% in math. And then looking at our special ed population, 26% proficient in language arts and 31% proficient in math. And one of the things that is talked about is the spread and the distance between the scores. Obviously, if we're looking at the entire population being at 70% in English language arts, we see a gap between the other subpopulations. Looking at socioeconomically disadvantaged and our African American population in language arts, roughly 20% difference. And then when we move on to looking at special education and our English learners, quite 40% difference there. So something that we definitely want to continue to work on. And you can look over at the math and see that while the spreads aren't quite as big, we still have some significant spread between the two. So what have we been doing? So if we look over time, this is 5 years of growth. This is looking at all of our students. The light blue is representative of 14-15 when we first took CASP testing and it was rolled out across the state. And then what we have in our most recent years. So you can see that we've had significant gains in both English language arts and in math for our population on the whole. Something to be quite proud of. We wanted to look and say, though, is that true for our subpopulation? So again, in the darkest blue color, the line at the top shows the population overall going from 58% to 70% in language arts and 48% to 66% in math over that 5-year trend. But you can also see the subpopulations and their growth. And just looking at the angles of the line, seeing that each of our subpopulations has made progress over that 5-year time period, some more, some less. Looking at math, we've had our subpopulations make a greater angle of growth than we have had in English language arts, but overall we also have some higher achievement in language arts. Looking again at our English learners and our special education population in language arts, that's something that we need to very much continue to work on and look at how we're going to continue to address. In math, though, they've almost closed that gap all the way up so that our 3 more challenged subpopulations are scoring grossly the same, and the gap is shrinking. We also wanted to look at those students who are the lowest achieving students in our district. So when we're looking at that, we have level 1, 2, 3, and 4, with 4 being the highest score on state testing, level 1 being the lowest scores on state testing. So we want to know, how are we doing, not just with our at and above or close to proficient students, but how are we serving our lowest achieving students, those students who scored at level 1? And we have a decrease, which is good in this case. We have fewer students. Not only have we moved more students to proficient, but we have more students who have moved out of level 1 and into a higher level, which is exactly what we want to see. So we're improving the learning of all students, regardless of where they fall on that spectrum. We have a decrease overall from 19 to 12%. We have a decrease for each of those subpopulations, so that we have fewer and fewer percent of students that are in that bottom quartile on both language arts and math. With the exception of the math special education students, they are remaining flat. That being said, we want to also look at ourselves in comparison, because we are not only the highest achieving district in the Central Valley area and San Joaquin County, we are also scoring better than some of our neighboring partners right over the hill. So when we look at our subpopulations, we say, how do they compare around us, though? If you look at our all on the right side of either the ELA or the math, our all is in the gray, and it's significantly higher than the county in blue or the state in orange. If you look at each of those subpopulations, Lammersville in the gray is outperforming the all of the county and the state very often for quite a few of the subpopulations. So for instance, our African American students, our socioeconomically disadvantaged students, they are outperforming the county and the state overall in English language arts proficiency. So while we have a gap as compared to ourselves, we're actually outperforming those all students in other cases when we compare it. Looking at math, you see it's not quite, it's just about the same. Almost every subpopulation is outperforming the entire population for the county and the state. So again, we want to close the gap when we're looking at that gap within Lammersville Unified, but we are showing significant success rates with those subpopulations. So what have we been doing that relates back to the LCAP plan and our goals in terms of meeting the needs of these students? So we've taken the different systems of support that we've put into place and aligned those with our LCAP goals to say these are the things that we've done that we think have directly resulted in some of the achievement. Obviously, there's the hard work of the students and the parents and the teachers and the site administrators that are going into this, but what structures have we put in that are also supporting that achievement? So underneath LCAP Goal 1, we have increased the variety and types of district-wide data reports that we look at to help us know what is working and what we need to focus on more. We have implemented small group strategic support to make sure that we're meeting the needs of students at various levels and differentiating instruction. We've begun the process of PLCs. It started at the high school last year, and we've tag teamed in with the K-8 population this year. We added a student services department to look at attendance and discipline and how we help support student behavior and access to education. We implemented the Guru Math Pilot at 6th through 8th grade and at the high school Math 1A, and we expanded our GATE program. So those are the things we've done systematically in order to close those opportunity gaps. In terms of looking at instructional efficacy, we've provided professional development to help teachers know what to do better within that small group strategic support. We've done walking and talking instruction visits where we're looking at best practices, and we've implemented a variety of curriculum programs that help support that: high school math professional development on the PLC process, and professional development around our designated ELD time. And then lastly, looking at our third LCAP goal, 21st century classrooms and stakeholder communication. We've worked on expanding the pathways and the CTE programs. We've been continuing to work on the middle school schedule. We've implemented maker spaces, and we have added the EPIC Academy at the high school. So combined, we think these systems of support are directly leading to the ability for our staff and our administrators and our students to be more successful. Any questions? Yes.
So, you said you expanded your GATE program.
Mm-hmm.
The main reason why I'm here, right? So, what is, first of all, I'd like to say, we came from a Elk Grove, Pleasant Grove Unified School District. So, my kids were in really great schools, and we came here because you guys have amazing schools. I have an autistic child, and I have two kids who struggle with some learning disability. And one turned out to be a genius, which we thought she was struggling with learning disability. But anyways, she's a senior. And so overall, I'm really happy with 3 of my kids, okay? Now, the 4th one, who's a genius, he's being exported to a Tracy Unified School District, which is 23 miles round trip every day for me as a parent. And this is a city that's not very cheap to live in, especially when it comes to taxes. $13,000 taxes for an $800,000 home. That's a lot of money. I'm paying more for here than I am in San Francisco. But what I'm gonna fight for, as long as I live here, is a meaningful, and I've talked to you and I've talked to you, right? Is a meaningful GATES program, because I just talked to a lady today and she said there's over 20 kids in our neighborhood that are going to Tracy Unified. That should not be the case. We should not export our geniuses to another school district. And I don't know the exact number, but I know between my family and 2 other families, there's 4 kids that I know personally. So we need to somehow figure out a way to bring these kids home and have a meaningful GATES program for them, because no kid should leave their own neighborhood, and he doesn't have anyone to play with here. He doesn't have any friends around here. I feel bad because he was here last year and he loved it, and he keeps every day I bring him from school, he's like, can I think Mrs. Ward, he's like, can I go see Mrs. Ward? And I don't know, my heart goes out to him. So it's not because of that, but also education, also the brain trust. You know, we need to keep that talent here. You guys are doing an amazing job in everything else, but we just need to maybe, I don't know, do something about the GATES program.
And we have talked, and I know that you would like to see a full-day GATE program available to our students where it's a self-contained classroom. And in our district, what we've chosen to do is to provide extension units and advanced curriculum that meet the needs of our high-achieving and our gifted learners, and then provide an enrichment program after school that is project-based. It is focusing on social emotional learning in addition to the academic extension and creative thinking. And it's also focusing on group work and public speaking, communication skills, so that
But it's 2 days a week, right?
it's 1 day a week after school, in addition to, No, it's district-wide. It's located there. All of the students from the district come to to the class that want to do it wherever that location for that grade level is. So we have a 5th grade, a 6th grade, a 7th and 8th grade are combined together because the numbers are smaller.
So you get 1 day a week here, but they can go to Tracy Unified School District and they can have it 5 days a week.
It's 1 day a week as an enrichment program. It's every day in the classroom with the curriculum that we provide. So the teachers are providing accelerated curriculum and advanced curriculum within the classroom every day. And then they receive on top of that the opportunity to participate in the enrichment program. Yeah.
I mean, maybe we need to do some. It's not just me, right? So we need to have a program that's meaningful enough to bring these other families back. I just feel like we I feel like we're missing something, and no kid from my neighborhood should go to another school to
But we expanded to the 8th grade this year. We started with 5th, so we have 5th, 6th, 7th. And additionally, we went to a full 4th grade screening instead of just a nomination process to make sure that we identified all 4th graders that would be eligible for gate identification versus just those whose parents or teachers happen to nominate them.
I really don't like, I don't like paying taxes here and then, it's not fair to Tracy Unified either that I'm taking their tax dollars and, having my kid there or missing the tax dollars that we can get for our school district for not having my kid there. So I see it from both perspectives, but at the same time, I'm looking for results, right? I don't really.
My suggestion would be to bring your children back and give it a shot here, because if you look at the results, our students are very high achieving. And we have many students who are, I don't know your child, but similar to your child in that they are very bright, some bordering on genius, who are being challenged and excelling right within our schools here.
He took the exam last week in 4th grade. He was 99.9%.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to jump in for a moment.
Sure.
Having been a self-contained PE teacher for many, many years, you're looking for results.
Yes.
I would suggest you go to some of the activities at the high school. 2 weeks ago, we had a white coat ceremony. Our kids who are in the biomedical pathways. I didn't understand half the things these kids were explaining, the projects that they were doing. You're going to see results. And now that we do have a program to support our gate students through the 8th grade, then when they get into high school, they choose their classes. And that's what will meet their needs there. But I would strongly suggest you check out what's going on at the high school and see that
Yeah, 2 of my
continuum
girls are
and
in
the
there.
results there.
Yeah, 2 of my
So
daughters
I
are
think
in
you'll
there.
be very happy.
And we've done significant effort to align the middle school electives. We got a lot of work to do on that, but we've aligned it so the things they're doing in their elective programs are feeding the CT pathways, the career pathways. So we are not perfect. We don't say we are. The numbers speak for themselves. If you were to drive over the hill to go to Livermore, we've left them in the dust. We're outperforming Livermore. We're getting close to the level of Pleasanton, Dublin, and San Ramon. So we know we're going in the right direction. We're building it as we're going because every time we turn around, there's another 500 kids. We got to figure out how we're going to fix, and do all that stuff. But we would not be able to start a middle school here because of the master plan. Creating a school or even a segregated student population within our K-8 schools would be very, very difficult, which is why we took on the more difficult task of building it into the curriculum that we had and using technology tools and other things to do it. And we started one grade level and got that right, and then expanded it, and we've done it kind of going out this way. So I know you've spoken with Assistant Superintendent Sherburne and Mr. Harrison, but I think it's important that you get all the information. It's not 20 kids, it's 5.
Right.
We have a mitigation agreement with Tracy Unified, and only certain kids can leave for certain reasons.
I believe that 20 was including all the way up to 8th grade, right? Before high school.
I didn't research those numbers because the numbers we talked about was 5 and 6.
So we would want those kids to come back too. Sometimes people want what they want, and they are willing to put the effort in, so I respect parents that do that. We think we provide a very real gate experience here that goes beyond certificates and field trips, which is what our motivation was. And I think based on what your experiences with our other programs is, there's a lot of benefit for families for having kids in a classroom filled with kids that are similar, highly motivated, parents send them to school ready to learn, and that kids being smart around kids is in itself a benefit. So, but we do appreciate your feedback.
And I appreciate this discussion. My apologies for taking over this. It's not my intention. I thought maybe this was a quick discussion, but thank you for
Well, it's a
your
powerful
experience.
discussion. It's an important question to ask.
I love this community and I love our kids, so I just want this
So
to
do we.
Yes, you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, does anyone else? Sorry. So that concludes our first LCAP meeting of the year of the District Advisory Committee. We want to thank everyone for coming this evening, and have a safe drive home and enjoy the wind.